Good morning. It's Wednesday morning, 9 o'clock, and here I am, Norma Cowie, with once more Norma Talks. This tends to be of my three little programs that I do. Shouldn't say little. This is my biggest one. It's usually the longest one, I should say. The longest one. And today I wanted to talk to you about past lives and in particular past life regression. How do I explain this? Right from the beginning, many years ago now, I worked in a metaphysical bookstore as their tarot card reader. Oh, I was doing some other things at the time. I was studying and I was going part-time to college. I had two kids. So anyway, it was a busy life. And the bookstore owner would bring in lecturers to talk about different topics. And the first one that I ever ran into with past life regression work was a lady by the, oh gosh, her name, I can't believe that her name has escaped my brain. It'll come to me, but she had written a book called Hypersentience. I owe her a lot actually, because I did private sessions and I was in contact with her for some time. And the book, which of course I bought, was very much in visualization to get you to where you needed to go. But the workshop itself was really interesting because I arrived late and I'd had an argument with my husband before I left. And I arrived there a little bit upset. Anyway, I was the last one in the room and I was right up beside the door. It was packed, but we were all lying on the ground, on sleeping bags and blankets or whatever it is, because we were lying down. And next thing I know, following her instructions, I'm in a different lifetime. I'm seeing myself as I was then. And the one story that I remember in particular was that I was a seaman way back in the old ships with the sails and everything. And down around Fiji, now remember, and I'm kind of familiar with that area as I was born in New Zealand. And but anyway, I was down there. Could have been Samoa or Fiji. I might have been Samoa. It doesn't matter. I was an island down there. Somehow or other, there was a shipwreck, if I remember rightly, and I ended up living with the natives on the island. And then several years later, because I couldn't get off and we didn't have another boat come by, I seemed to be the only white person there. So I don't know what had happened to all the others, or maybe I just fell off the boat. It's a long time ago that I did all the work around this. And anyway, I was out on the reef one day and I fell on the reef and cut my leg really badly. And of course, there's no axe to cut the leg off that needed to go. Anyway, to make a long story short, I died. And from there, I did a lot of other work. I did some personal work, and then I began to just do it myself. And I remembered quite a lot of different lifetimes. And I'm going to tell you how things grew. But anyway, what I wanted to bring back that was the beginning. And I did quite a number of lifetimes like that, just remembering them. I found that I remembered those lifetimes very clearly because I hadn't learned yet about transformation, how to transform the energy. And so another story and by then I had learned how to do transformation work. Our family, we liked sunshine, heat, etc. And especially my then husband and the kids and I, we would go to California pretty well never mind Christmas. We were off down to the sunshine. And every time we went through San Francisco, I would not be, I just didn't want to stop in San Francisco. I didn't want to have anything to do with San Francisco at all. Felt very like it's almost like we were driving, whether we were driving, like I say, down, but going south, or if we were coming back by going north, I get near San Francisco and I just would not feel good. So a number years pass, and I learned a lot about transformation work, but I'll come to that in a bit. Because I was, and my business partner at the time and I were producing psychic fairs, we had been asked to come to San Francisco and produce a psychic fair. As not as though they didn't have enough of their own down there. Anyway, I had to go down early to organize certain things. Well, I didn't like being in San Francisco. And here I am. So the first night I'm there, I went, okay, I've got to get to the bottom of this. And I knew how to regress myself. So I laid down on the bed in the motel room and regressed myself. And what did I find? I found that I was a Russian seaman on shore leave. I saw the ships in the harbor, sails and all, again, old time ago. I think they had, those ones had sails. They may not. But anyway, I was a Russian seaman on shore leave. At 1906, right when the large earthquake fire happened. I never made it back to the boat. Because I had also begun to learn about transformation work, and at that time, when I was in San Francisco experiencing this, I knew enough. I had learned over the years, I learned more, but I had learned enough to be able to dress and be able to release that energy, hold the memory, but release the energy. To this day, anytime I'm in San Francisco, and I've had to go back there for many things since, not a problem. Not a problem at all. And so that was the beginning, and not the beginning, but part of my journey that actually I wrote in a little book called Many Lives and Many Ways of Remembering Them. And then other places I went. I had a friend who moved to France. And so I decided to go and visit with her. And my daughter came with me. Or she came later, I think. I went first and then she came later. So the three of us were there. But we went on she lived in southern France, and we went, and I always have trouble pronouncing the word, but there's a sort of a I don't speak French at all, but there's an old fort castle, and at the top of it there is a church. So we went and we were walking around it and going, and I'm feeling fine at that time. And anyway, I was getting a little bit tired, so I sat down to have a coffee. I drank coffee in those days, and they took off to go somewhere else. Younger than me, so and anyway, so I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at the hill going up to the church. I'm just sitting there with my coffee, minding my own business, looking at this hill going up to the church at the top of the hill. And the next minute, it felt like on 1 minute, I'm just sort of looking at the hill and the church. The next minute, I'm a young man with a sword, and I'm fighting my way up that hill, fighting all the way up. But I don't make the top. About very close to the top anyway. I meet a better swords person. And so again, I die. And so while I'm sitting there, I transform all that energy, but I keep them, you kept the memory. And it was quite an interesting memory because it was I was a good swordsman, obviously, in that life. And if I went up there, and when the girls came back, I was telling them about it. And the whole, and I'm not going to talk too much about the actual transformation yet until I have one more story, and it deals with France again. I went on a European tour with a friend, and it was 10 days going through every night in a new city and things like that. And we went, where did we go? We were in Switzerland. There were a couple of things that happened there, but the major one was we were taken to this lake, and over the we were there very early in the morning, actually. And as we looked over this lake, carved into the cliff across was this scene where a lion was being kind of stabbed. And I got very emotional looking at this. Didn't know why. I just kind of got emotional about it. And so, but the story that we were told, which I'm going to tell you in a minute when I sort of complete this, and maybe I'll tell you now. The story we were told there was that I'm just, that's quite a few years ago, but I want to I didn't have the book in front to read, but I just wanted to come out of I've got the basics and that's about it, was that the Swiss, because this is in Switzerland, there was a memorial for these people that were killed in France. They were, what happened was Switzerland was totally bound in, but they had an army, and they were other people, like the person in France, would rent the army to guard them. And so in Paris, there was a garden where, well, it was a big place where there were a lot of soldiers, actually, Swiss soldiers guarding the king. I can't remember which king it was, one of the ones. And what happened, some people came in and the guards were told to stay there. Soldiers have to obey orders. That's what soldiers do. They don't think, they obey. And so that somebody came in and basically they were killed row by row by row. And that story touched me. I thought, oh my goodness, wow. And I was a little uncomfortable, but not really not emotional. It just was in my mind going, oh, wow. So, okay, a few days later, we are in Paris. And we are put on little boats, and we were going to go down the Seine, I guess it is. And as we're beginning to float by this place, we'd already been to the Louvre and seen all the things in there. And I started crying. No kidding. It's very embarrassing to just start weeping, eyes watering, etc. And my friend that was with me said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Not really, but it's okay." And I just kind of kept patting these watering of the eye. And then I said to her, "Where did those people get killed?" And it turned out we were passing the Louvre, and I had the picture right there. And the thing was, my daughter, who wasn't with us on this trip, was with me, and we were young men. I did have some lives as women too, but seems like my traumatic ones were as men. And so I ended up, her and I think we were brothers, but we were soldiers, Swiss soldiers. And we were with a lot of them. This place where it was like, there's the building and there's this big garden beside it where we were. And they were having these, it felt like rabble, what they call rebel, like just people. It didn't seem to be a Pacific group or a country or anything. They were coming in and they were killing. And we were told to stay there. And what was happening, I don't know how they did it, why I think we were told not to stand down, but not leave. Anyway, to make a long story short, the story that we had been told in Switzerland was, I was seeing it being played out with my daughter in this life, and me standing there and getting mowed down. Now, what happens with that is when you cannot do anything, like you are a fighter, they're soldiers, but they were told to stand down and not leave, to stand there and be killed. And many, 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 believe me, there was a lot of people there. And so, but what I began, this is where I was so thankful I knew how to do releasing. Because when I got back to my hotel room, I just said to my friend, I'm just going to sit here and get clear this. I was a mess at that time. I mean, all this emotion, and what it is pride. When you have pride in doing something and then you can't do it, when you have the ability to be able to be a soldier and defend, and you can do what you got to do, and then told not, and yet at the same time, you're going to get killed for it, a lot of emotion. So that's the reincarnational elements. And that's what I did a lot of that work, where I would remember back into all sorts of things. I remembered my early, the different early regressions I did, because there was no transformation. I had to go back in my memory. I had to go back and redo them so I could clear the energy and remember. Most of them over the time I don't remember anymore, except some very significant ones. And these were early, and that one in Paris was really, really significant. So let's talk about how we do that to be able to transform, to be able to see. I want to talk about the subconscious for a minute. It's like we sort of accept that our subconscious has our beliefs and our attitudes, but where do they come from? They come from living in other times. Can be future, by the way. I've done a few future lives as well. It's a little harder for our mind to go there because of that. It's easy to go into the past because we have a past. But we do have we can be in futures. I've had future ones. But it's like, how do we change the subconscious from these decisions? Just like me in San Francisco, like I didn't know what was going on every time we got near. We didn't stop in San Francisco because I would say no. We would go further north and stop the night there. I just couldn't handle being there. So it was painful to be there for that week until I did the regression on myself and did the energy work, releasing the energy. So we're dealing with a technique that actually goes into the subconscious so that you're able to let it go. And because I talk a lot about light and talk about love and light, a lot of people in the old days when I was out there in the world, people often we end up talking and they say love and light as they think, meaning we're sending you love and light. Light is the key. So when you have a memory of energy, it doesn't really matter if it's this life or any other life, and you want to transform it, the very, very easily way of explaining it is the loving light that is there is that you bring it in and you release what is. And so your subconscious may hold the shadow, may remember the bits and pieces, but the energy, the hurt, the pain, the sadness, the terror, the anger, all emotions that you prefer not to have that will express itself in this life, we're able to give up and release. And so it's incredibly important to be able to do that, to release out those things that bind you, because you may have a dream, you may have whatever, but it's like releasing the energy as well. That's why to this day, I remember the early regressions I did much more than the many, many, many I did later, because they were totally cleared. I had lots of memories. I kind of want to show, I did a regression on myself for this life. And I had a memory of where I died, which was in Germany, and flying through the air. And that's when I got reborn in New Zealand. I knew my father. He and I had lives. We'd had at least one, maybe more, but we had a life way back in Egypt, actually. So I knew my father. I knew who he was. And my mother was a kind woman. And I had just died in Berlin, actually, being kicked by Nazis because I wouldn't be what they wanted me to be. I was in the resistance. I've had several. I've also been in the Irish resistance too. I touched into that one time. So it's like, I have been a little bit of a fighter in my life. And probably on the, when I think of the things that I've done in this life, have been kind of the edge of things. And so yes, I've done that. I didn't feel like that when I was growing up, though. I felt very, very small and took a lot to be able to believe in myself, took a lot to overcome. And the technique of letting the energy go is what made the big difference, is what kind of added to me, because I began to incorporate the strength and the faith and the belief system that there is more than what we know right now. So when you get really upset about something, you begin to realize there's more. There's more that you can work with, you can understand, you can bring forward, that you can, what can I say, that you can bring forward. It's not enough just to know, oh, yes, I did this. It's really important that you transform the energy, that whatever this was, you're able to clear it. So, and bring it into the present body. It's not about doing it back there either. You touch in there, but you make sure it's all transformed here now, because you want that whoops, I'm over my words. You want the subconscious to be cleared. Otherwise, you'll just keep going lifetime after lifetime, recreating different emotions and feelings. And we want to be a lot clearer so that we can move into much more directive elements of where we want to be, where we want to go, what we want to do. And I don't know that there's anything more I want to add to this. As I said, I wrote this little booklet called Many Lives and Many Ways of Remembering Them. And there are many ways you can remember them. And but I wanted to share the most significant stories for myself where I did remember them, because they happened and before I knew the transformation work. Since then, there's been many, many, many more. And I didn't keep an absolute diary, but it's like understanding the process of the transformation work. And so now I can go to San Francisco anytime I want. Now I can go to any place. I can go to the Louvre again without a worry, without getting kind of upset, wondering why I'm feeling unsettled. It's because it's like pushing the clear button. And you may have the memory still because it had an impact, and it does have an effect in this life, decisions that you make. And that's one thing I didn't really talk about. In any lifetime, you make decisions about things, people, circumstances. And very often those are what you're dealing with today. And so they show themselves in different ways. And that's why the transformational work that I do deals with this life here, but very often we're dealing with what's in the past. But that's for another day at another time. So I just trust that you will recognize you are more than what you think you are. That you've had many, many other experiences. Some of them not nice, and that's the ones I remembered mostly. I had many memories of not nice situations happen, but it's the trauma that's experienced in those lives that we carry with us. If we have a nice, peaceful life, what do we bring out of it? It was nice and sweet, great. But the traumas, usually where we die unexpectedly, where we've been hurt, we've been slaughtered or hung, or because we have a vast variety in this. But I've had some lives where I'm just remembering now, where I've been like in a wood, like in North America somewhere. It's a bit cold, so probably more at where I live now. Big wood, like big trees, and taking a tree and like we didn't have canoes even. We'd sit on a log. Some tree had fallen down, and we would sit on the log and float down the river. I had a memory of that. and we're wearing furs. So if we fell off, you can imagine what happens when all this fur gets wet. Like there's so many experiences we have had. And it's like, sometimes it's just been a terrific journey, because there was one time when for months I was doing a lot of regressions. And once I learned how to transform them, I had to go back and transform all the early ones. And then when I did them, I transformed them now. So it's not like my memory bank is full. My memory bank's full somewhere, but it's clean and clear. So I'm not having to, keep remembering them. Excuse me. But there is times, I always say, if you want to have some fun, go look and see where you've been because it's different. It's interesting and it's worthwhile. Anyway, I just want to wish you well. I want to say hi to Karen. She says good morning, and I say good morning back. Paul Fried, I don't know if I've had that name before. Hello, Norma from the USA. Anything in my past life? Thank you. I'm not reading here. I'm just talking more about the energy. It works. I love to cook. I'm so glad. Yes, love to you too. Thank you. Marion, good morning. Good morning, Marion. Karen says, fascinating stories. Oh, I'm full of stories, believe me. Thank you so very much. I had an experience in Salem, Massachusetts. Oh, yeah, I have not ever been there. When entering the prison where prisoners were kept, chills, and I had to get out. Yeah. And so just imagine how wonderful it is to be able to clear that so you can be there. Because that's what happened to me in San Francisco in particular. And then of course crying as I'm going down the Seine, and that's when it all came together, the memory, the total memory. And as I said, I was lucky to go back to the hotel, clear it all, and I was fine for the rest of the day for sure. Paul says hello, and I am new. Well, congratulations, welcome. For everybody, most people that are here, Karen B and Marion, they know that I have 3 shows. I have today's, which is more of a talk. I have, the next one will be Sunday morning at 9:00 in the morning. I have a Sunday thought, and that's small. That's usually around 10 minutes, sometimes stretches a little longer. And then on Monday nights at 7, we have mental mind treatments where I use alternative prayer and my psychic impressions to answer like questions like you said here, anything about my past life. But I ask you to pick 3 numbers, and that's my key to help unlock what I need to know. I wish you well today, and I just remember you are more than what you see when you look at the mirror. You have had experiences. I have so many stories I can tell you about what I've seen, and I will some more. I've decided we're going to open up more and I'm going to tell some of the stories that I know, not just about me, but what I've seen around life and people and why we're here and where we're going. And who knows where I'm going to go next, because it's be interesting. Karen says, hopefully I can clear it. Yeah, I can help you with that. Don't like fire. Yeah, right. Yes, I know. I've had to do that myself. Okay, blessings, lots of love. Have a great time. Enjoy. And I shall see you again on Sunday. Bye for now.